The Scavenger's Daughter was a device whose very name conjured up terror, an instrument of unimaginable pressure that slowly, relentlessly crushed the body into an unnaturally contorted shape. It was not designed to kill swiftly, but to break, to force the victim's body to endure a type of pain that stretched the limits of human endurance. Unlike the sharp blades of an axe or the immediate pain of a hanging, the Scavenger's Daughter operated with methodical precision, applying ever-tightening force to the body, breaking bones, rupturing organs, and reducing the victim to a crumpled mass of broken flesh. The device itself was ingeniously simple but incredibly effective. Made of iron, it was essentially a chair-like contraption with two metal bars that encircled the victim's body. The victim would be bound within it, often in a sitting position with their legs bent under their body and their head forced downward. These metal bars were then tightened gradually, pulling the body into an unnatural posture. As the bars closed in, pressure mounted on the chest, ribs, and spine, compressing the torso in a way that would eventually crush the body's internal organs. The constricting nature of the device made every breath a labor, as the chest and diaphragm were forced into a state of extreme compression. The body was squeezed into an increasingly smaller space, bones bending under the weight of their own structure. The metal bars would dig into the ribs and legs, and the victim's arms, bound tightly to their sides, would often be rendered useless. Internal bleeding and crushed organs were almost inevitable. The device was not intended for a quick end. It was a slow, agonizing process, and death could take hours, if not longer, depending on the victim's physical state and the severity of the pressure applied. Unlike the simpler tortures of being stretched on the rack or pierced by the Iron Maiden, the Scavenger's Daughter acted upon the victim's body through the slow force of compression. The agony was not caused by sudden ruptures, but by the unrelenting pressure that built up over time. Every turn of the screw or lever that tightened the metal frame drove the body further into a state of torture. The victim's body would respond with spasms, with cries of agony, and sometimes with involuntary movements that only intensified the pain. It was the prolonged nature of the Scavenger's Daughter that made it such an insidious device. The victim's suffering could be drawn out for hours, their cries filling the air as they begged for mercy that would never come. This slow torture was not just about physical pain. It was about the mental and emotional devastation that accompanied it. To be bound in this device was to be stripped of all control, to be forced into a position of helplessness where time itself became the enemy. The clock ticked, each moment stretching out the horror, as the pressure built to unbearable levels. Unlike other devices that might offer a quick death, the Scavenger's Daughter turned its victims into grotesque displays of human endurance. It was not designed to end lives quickly. It was designed to destroy the victim piece by piece, breaking their body until they were no longer capable of resistance. The longer a person survived in the device, the more their spirit was crushed along with their bones. Every moment of pain only compounded the torture, forcing the victim to face the inevitability of their own destruction with no way out. The simplicity of the device belied its sheer effectiveness. It didn't need to be complex to be horrifying. The very concept of being trapped in a device that methodically squeezed the life out of you was enough to fill the mind with dread. And when the device was applied, there was no escape. No way to evade the excruciating pressure that was forcing the body into a contorted, broken shape. It was torture in its most refined, and perhaps most insidious, form, a slow, grinding agony that ended only when the body could take no more. The true horror of the Scavenger's Daughter was not in the instantaneous agony of a single blow, but in the slow, methodical crushing of the human form. Unlike many other devices that inflicted pain quickly and efficiently, the Scavenger's Daughter operated through a torturous slowness. The victim's body was not broken with one swift action, but through gradual, deliberate compression that transformed every movement, every breath, into a struggle for survival. The suffering was not a sudden rupture, but a slow, agonizing unraveling of the body's structure, forcing it into a contorted shape that stretched the boundaries of what any human could endure. When a person was placed in the Scavenger's Daughter, their body was forced into a sitting position, their limbs bound and immobilized by the cold, unyielding iron. The device, with its interlocking bars, was designed to fit tightly around the body, closing in on the chest, abdomen, and limbs. The tightening of the bars was gradual, but the effects were immediate. As the pressure mounted, the victim's body began to twist under the weight of its own constraints. The spine was forced into a curve, the ribs compressed against the chest, and the body's natural alignment violently distorted. The agony came not only from the force exerted by the metal, but from the way the body reacted to it. Muscles locked in an attempt to resist the pull of the device, but with each passing moment, the body's resistance weakened. The chest was crushed, breathing became a laborious effort, and the ribs, with each constriction, were forced inward. The diaphragm, struggling to expand, was pressed further down, making every inhale an excruciating challenge. The victim's internal organs were squeezed and crushed, their fragile structure being slowly torn apart. Unlike the visible damage caused by other devices such as the rack or the braking wheel, the suffering inflicted by the Scavenger's Daughter was internal as much as it was external. Victims were left to experience the relentless pressure that grew more intense with every passing minute. As the iron bars tightened, the body's natural capacity for endurance was tested to its absolute limit. Blood flow was reduced, and oxygen became harder to draw, making each breath a painful struggle. The body's natural defenses were overwhelmed, and the victim began to weaken, losing strength not because of a single blow, but from the cumulative effects of prolonged suffering. The contorted position, with the body bent at unnatural angles, was a key part of the device's cruelty. It didn't just break bones or tear muscles, it disoriented the body itself, making the victim feel as though they were being torn apart from the inside out. The tight bindings prevented any form of escape, and the compression of the limbs and torso made even the smallest movement impossible. This immobilization left the victim unable to seek relief in any form. Each moment stretched on in slow agony as the iron device continued its work, pulling the body into ever tighter, more uncomfortable positions. As the device tightened further, the mind itself was drawn into the pain. The victim was not simply a body enduring physical damage. They were a mind trapped in an unending spiral of suffering, unable to escape the body's response to the pressure. The excruciating sensations turned inward, blurring the lines between the physical and psychological pain. The victim was left in a state of helplessness, their body completely under the control of the device, with no means of escape or relief. The gradual nature of the torture ensured that the victim was forced to endure the agony for as long as the executioner chose. The victim's cries, once loud and desperate, would eventually become softer, weaker, as their strength drained away with each passing moment. What made the Scavenger's Daughter so horrifying was the sheer unpredictability of its effects. Unlike devices that had clear outcomes, such as hanging or beheading, the Scavenger's Daughter created a prolonged suffering that could last for hours, even days. The victim's body might not break instantly, but the longer they endured, the more the body succumbed to the pressure. The toll on the mind was as devastating as the toll on the body. This slow, contorted suffering was designed to break the spirit as much as the flesh. The victim was not merely punished, they were humiliated, reduced to a writhing mass of broken limbs and crushed internal organs. The device made them helpless, but it also made them visible, displayed for others to witness. The agonizing, twisting position made it impossible for the victim to retain any semblance of dignity. Every movement, Every scream was forced out of them by the device, reinforcing their vulnerability and submission. The Scavenger's Daughter was a torture device, not only for its physical impact, but for its psychological consequences. The slow compression of the body was not just an act of violence, it was a methodical breaking of the victim's will. By forcing the body into a position of unbearable pain, the device eroded the victim's autonomy, leaving them to face a fate that could stretch out for what felt like an eternity. The Scavenger's Daughter was a device that didn't just target the body, it targeted the very nature of human vulnerability. The way the body was forced into the device made it one of the most grotesque forms of torture ever devised. It did not just break bones or tear flesh, it manipulated the body's natural limits, pushing it to endure positions that no human frame was ever meant to take. The device didn't only destroy, it humiliated, it immobilized, and above all, it exposed the victim to a kind of suffering that left both body and mind shattered. When a person was strapped into the Scavenger's Daughter, their body was positioned in the most unnatural and vulnerable of ways. The victim was often forced into a sitting or hunched posture, their limbs bound and immobilized. The constriction of the device began slowly at first, but it soon became evident that the body was under siege. The knees were drawn painfully toward the chest, the back forced into a contorted curve, and the head pushed downward. Every part of the body was made to bend and twist in a way that defied natural movement, straining muscles, joints, and ligaments to their breaking point. What made this positioning so excruciating was that it trapped the victim in a state of total helplessness. Unlike other devices where the victim could potentially move or struggle, the Scavenger's Daughter left no room for resistance. The body was completely bound by iron, and with each tightening of the metal frame, the victim was further compressed into a state of total immobility. The victim's legs and arms were drawn tightly to their sides, their chest squeezed, their neck and head forced downward, in a way that made even the smallest movement a painful effort. This forced immobility not only heightened the physical pain, but inflicted a kind of mental degradation as well, as the victim found themselves entirely powerless against the device's unrelenting pressure. The device also targeted the most vulnerable parts of the body, those areas that, when compressed or damaged, could cause immense internal suffering. The chest, the spine, the abdomen, all were under brutal pressure. As the device closed in, the ribs would crack under the force, the lungs would struggle to expand, and the victim would feel as though their very organs were being crushed. This constant pressure on the torso was more than just painful. It was suffocating. Each breath became a desperate attempt to survive. Each inhale sharp and shallow, as if the lungs themselves could not keep up with the weight of the agony. The internal strain was relentless, and it could easily lead to the rupture of organs or internal bleeding. But it wasn't just the body that the Scavenger's Daughter targeted. It also attacked the mind. The fear of suffocation, the fear of being trapped, the dread of losing control, all of these elements combined to create a psychological torment, every bit as agonizing as the physical pain. The victim was forced into a position of such helplessness that their mind too became ensnared. As the body was compressed, the mind struggled against the pressure, trying desperately to escape from the unrelenting force. The claustrophobia induced by the tight bindings and the pain of the contorted position turned the torture into a complete breakdown of both physical and mental strength. This targeting of both the body and the mind was what made the Scavenger's Daughter so insidious. It was not simply a machine for causing physical damage. It was a device designed to break down the victim in every way possible. The victim's mental state was as important a target as their physical state. By forcing them into this uncomfortable and vulnerable position, the device stripped away their sense of autonomy, reducing them to nothing more than a helpless body in agony. The more they struggled, the worse the pain became, as their body was forced further into the device, making them fully aware of just how far they had been reduced. There was also the psychological aspect of time. The victim was trapped in this agonizing position for as long as the torturer chose. There was no way to escape, no means of shortening the ordeal. The slow tightening of the device meant that the victim was left in a state of prolonged suffering, with no end in sight. The mental weight of this constant torture was immense. Each minute felt like an eternity. This was not a quick, violent death. This was a drawn-out punishment that eroded the victim's will, leaving them to beg for an end that might never come. The mind and body, both overwhelmed by the sensation of being trapped and broken, were left at the mercy of the device. In this way, the Scavenger's Daughter became more than just a physical tool of torture. It was a mechanism of total subjugation. It took the body and twisted it into a painful and unnatural shape, but it also crushed the spirit. The victim was left not only with physical damage, but with a sense of absolute helplessness, of being reduced to nothing more than a broken body, unable to escape its fate. The device forced the victim to face the full weight of their own vulnerability, both physically and mentally, until they could do nothing but endure. The Scavenger's Daughter was not designed simply to destroy the body. Its true purpose was to break the human spirit, to reduce the victim to a state of absolute submission, where resistance became impossible. The device's slow, agonizing pressure was just one part of its functionality. What made it truly horrific was its ability to strip away the will to fight, to collapse not only the body, but the mind and soul. It was a tool used to break resistance, to force confessions, and to eliminate defiance, all through the methodical dismantling of the person's ability to stand against authority. Unlike other forms of punishment, where the goal might be swift execution or visible physical mutilation, the Scavenger's Daughter focused on endurance. Its design forced the victim into a position of helplessness, making resistance not only futile but physically impossible. As the device tightened, the victim's ability to fight back became increasingly compromised. The more the device compressed the body, the less mobility the victim had, and the less they could attempt to escape their torment. This slow confinement, paired with the ever-increasing pressure, ensured that any resistance was broken down before it could even take root. The victim's ability to resist was further undermined by the fear that accompanied each incremental tightening of the device. Resistance was a mental game as much as a physical one. As the victim was compressed, they were forced into a psychological battle with the device. Each turn of the screw, each twist of the lever, was a direct challenge to their resolve. The device was not just an instrument of pain, it was a psychological weapon designed to erode the victim's will to continue resisting. Every moment spent in the device was an invitation to surrender, a reminder that resistance only made the pain worse. The Scavenger's Daughter was a tool used by the authorities to extract confessions, and it did so with terrifying effectiveness. Those accused of heresy, rebellion, or treason were often subjected to it in an attempt to break their resolve. The physical pain inflicted by the device would cause the victim to cry out in agony, but the psychological torment was what truly made them vulnerable. The longer the device was applied, the more the victim's body and mind would break down. Eventually, they would beg for mercy, confess crimes they may not have committed, or submit to the demands of their torturers, all in the hope of escaping the endless pressure. The true horror of the Scavenger's Daughter lay in how it converted the victim's pain into compliance. Unlike other forms of torture that were blunt or swift, the Scavenger's Daughter ensured that the victim's resistance was crushed slowly, painfully, and methodically. The victim was given no room to fight, no chance to escape. They were left to wrestle with their own helplessness, to experience the mental and physical breakdown that comes when one is subjected to prolonged, unyielding pain. In this way, The device became not only an instrument of physical torture, but a tool of mental domination. This methodical breakdown of resistance was not accidental. It was a deliberate aspect of the Scavenger's Daughter's design. Torturers were trained to use the device in a way that maximized its psychological impact. They would apply the pressure slowly, allowing the victim to experience the full weight of the device's power before pushing them to the point of collapse. The device was not intended to kill, but to make the victim give in to their torment, to bend them to the will of the authority that had ordered their torture. In many cases, the Scavenger's Daughter was used not only for confessions, but to send a message. Victims who were forced into this device were often those whose defiance threatened the established order. They were public examples, chosen not only to punish, but to break the will of others. The sight of a person subjected to the Scavenger's Daughter was enough to send a chilling message to anyone who might think to challenge the status quo. The device's ability to break the spirit as much as the body made it a powerful tool of control, ensuring that those who survived it were not only physically destroyed, but mentally subjugated. Even after the victim's release from the device, the effects could last long after the physical pain had subsided. The Scavenger's Daughter left not just scars on the body, but scars on the psyche. Survivors often spoke of the psychological toll of enduring such a slow, agonizing process. The memory of the device would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The Scavenger's Daughter did not just leave broken bodies. It left broken minds, minds that had been slowly forced into submission. In this way, the Scavenger's Daughter proved itself to be far more than a device of physical torture. It was a tool designed specifically to break resistance, to dismantle the will, and to force the victim to surrender. It was a machine of both physical and mental domination, a terrifying example of how power could be wielded not just through physical violence, but through the systematic destruction of the victim's autonomy. The Scavenger's Daughter, like many medieval torture devices, has long since faded from practical use. Yet its legacy persists in the haunting imagery it evokes and the extreme suffering it symbolizes. Though rarely seen in the modern world, the device has left an indelible mark on the history of human cruelty. Its memory continues to cast a shadow over our understanding of torture, not just as an act of physical pain, but as an instrument of psychological destruction. The Scavenger's Daughter remains one of the darkest symbols of a past where the worst fates imaginable were inflicted upon the bodies and minds of those deemed enemies of the state, of the church, or of social order. The legacy of the Scavenger's Daughter is not only found in the history books or the occasional historical record, it lives on in the collective memory of humanity. It serves as a reminder of how far the human capacity for cruelty could go when sanctioned by authority. The device's purpose was never merely to kill. Its goal was to break, to destroy resistance, and to force the victim to become nothing more than a broken tool of submission. The suffering it caused was extreme, not just in the physical agony it inflicted, but in the mental toll it took. What makes the legacy of the Scavenger's Daughter particularly disturbing is how it fuses both immediate physical suffering and the psychological impact of prolonged torment. It was not enough to simply crush the body or force the victim to endure agony for a few moments. The Scavenger's Daughter was designed to drag the suffering out slowly and methodically, turning each second of pain into a lesson in helplessness. The victim was forced to endure a level of pressure that caused irreversible damage while being left in a helpless state of constant agony. The slow descent into despair was part of the design. It was not about mercy or release, but about total domination. The device also left a legacy in the stories and images passed down through generations. Artists, writers, and chroniclers took the stories of these devices and wove them into the cultural fabric of Europe's darkest chapters. The Scavenger's Daughter's reputation spread like wildfire, even to those who had never seen it used firsthand. In this way, the legacy of extreme suffering became a shared experience, not confined to the victims but extended to entire communities, cities, and even countries. The idea of such brutal torture and the lingering suffering that followed became part of the collective fear that kept people obedient. Today, the legacy of the Scavenger's Daughter persists in its presence in museums, books, and films. Modern depictions often show it in its most horrific form, emphasizing the twisted, unnatural posture it forced upon its victims. It continues to be an enduring symbol of human cruelty, not just as a physical instrument of torture, but as a representation of the suffering endured by countless individuals throughout history. It serves as a symbol of the extreme ends to which people were driven when authorities sought to break them. The device's impact endures precisely because it epitomizes an era where the body could be twisted, contorted, and destroyed in the name of maintaining order. But perhaps the most haunting part of the legacy of the Scavenger's Daughter is the enduring psychological trauma it left in its wake. Survivors, if there were any, were left with not just physical scars, but deep psychological ones. To have endured such a slow, agonizing process was to have experienced something far beyond simple pain. The memories of the device lingered long after the flesh had healed. The sense of powerlessness, the slow crushing of the body, and the utter helplessness of being trapped in the device broke people not just physically, but mentally. Survivors often spoke of nightmares, of the sensation of being trapped in the device again and again, of the slow pressure and the crushing weight that never left their minds. The legacy of the Scavenger's Daughter, therefore, is not confined to its historical use. It lives on in the trauma and the stories that continue to echo through time. It is a reminder of the depths to which humanity once sank in the name of justice and control. While we no longer use devices like the Scavenger's Daughter, the psychological scars they left behind continue to shape our understanding of human suffering. It serves as a haunting reminder of how torture, in any form, can leave lasting damage, physical, psychological, and societal. In the end, the Scavenger's Daughter was more than just a tool of execution. It was an embodiment of the extreme suffering and control exercised by those in power. It serves as a grim symbol, a marker of history's darkest moments, and a reminder that the legacies of cruelty can last far longer than the tools that inflicted them. The device itself may be gone, but its memory persists, lingering in the minds of all who remember or learn of its terrible legacy.